Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Right now, the ES has developed a narrow range at the lows here. This narrow range has developed in a spot where, with its rounded bottom, it could perhaps lead to a modest rally ahead. This rounded bottom has developed in the 60-minute time frame, very well developed there in both the ES and the NQ. You can see that this rounded bottom has developed off of the previous year's low and also below the previous month's low price, which again could be a great spot for a trap in reverse. This market has not been very good about seeing lasting strength on any basis here lately, or even throughout the year so far. We've only had a handful of moves that have actually moved the needle to the upside over a week. So this could be one of those times that if it can get above that 38.25 here, it opens up the potential to rally back toward 4,000, maybe 4,100, or perhaps as high as 4,200, the bottom of support. But again, that would may be too much to ask of this market right now, as it has been very, very bearish overall. We do have a downward trending channel right now. We're at the counter trend edge of that channel. There can tend to be a bounce before maybe the next primary directional move occurs. So this narrow range right here, very good. It's about 7 days in the making here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in the making. On an 8-day basis, even adding this day, it's still compressed. If we drop this down to a 7-day compression reading here, you'll see it's 56% of average range and 460 points of potential movement could be seen. 460 points. So you're looking at a 400 plus point move, and again, you know, this type of range can break out in either direction. So we'll have to continue to watch its development here. But one thing that would be tremendously bearish is for this thing to break to the upside and then fail like this with a big failed new high type of pattern. If that's the case, we would take that high right there and forecast lower for the next target. So we've seen that happen many times here during the weakness of this year. For example, this is one of the best examples here, where we had a very narrow range right here, failed new high, and that led to the next rotation to the downside. So we'll be keeping an eye on this range as it develops. Alright, let's take a look here at the NQ. The NQ also has that rounded bottom, very well defined rounded bottom in the 60-minute time frame. Great resistance across the highs. 11,800 is a great resistance level right there. If price can push through that 11.8, it opens up some upside. Again, in terms of quantification here, we have a quantified move of 1,500 plus points that could be seen. 1,500 points. So again, if we're looking at 11.5, perhaps as high as 13 on a move like that would be 1,500 points. That could take us right back up to the top end of the range. We have kind of a lower low failure that would develop. And keep in mind, this rounded bottom here has developed right at the previous month's lows. So if it's going to reject prices below there, then it starts to rotate back toward the previous month's midpoint at the very least. That would take us back toward 12.5. So again, how is it price going to rotate out of this range? It's going to push through the upside. Are we going to see a failed breakout through 11.8? A failed breakout that looks like this again could get, we could be using that high to forecast lower 1,500 points, and that put us somewhere in the 10,008 level, maybe 10,005, depending on where that high comes in. So again, a lot of energy built up here. Quite a bit of movement could be seen once we get out of this range. Until then, we could see continued range-bound action in this range until we're ready to see expansion. Keep in mind, Fed Chair Powell speaks later on today for the second day of testimony at 9 a.m. Central Time. Let's take a look now at crude oil. Here's crude oil right here. Crude oil has pulled back quite a bit from its recent highs. It broke down through the 115 market structure. We mentioned on the breakdown here that we could rotate as deep as the 95 level. 95 is prior support of that market structure. We have also seen price get very close to that composite VWAP. That's 99.89 at composite VWAP. You have the previous month's low price just below there, so we don't necessarily have to drop all the way to 95s. We could drop, you know, somewhere between 95 and 100 and be good for a reversal. Right now we are seeing a bit of a hold day, kind of an inside day and a bounce back day. That's very similar to what happened a couple of days ago right here before it dropped hard this day. So again, this might be a hold day, a little bit of a bounce back day, at least in the short term, and then tomorrow we might see a full-on continuation into the downside target. Overall, you know, giving up the 115 zone suggests that we stay between 95 and 115, at least for the near term here. So if we drop down to the bottom edge, we may rally back to 115 and stay in this range as it did back here. Looking at Bitcoin right now, Bitcoin up about 2.4% at the moment. Narrow ranges developing here at these lows. Again, this one right now is very difficult to get going to the upside more than one day. So if it's going to have an up day today, tomorrow could be a down day. And keep in mind, with Fed Chair Powell up, we could be looking at some sort of headline risk that triggers expansion out of this range. For now, it's hard not to see this thing drop out of this range. It is sitting right on the 20,000 level right there. 20,000 is likely a very clear round number support level, but giving up that 20,000 opens up a bit more downside here toward the bottom end of this LVN zone here, and right now it's building energy to make that move. So soon we could be looking at expansion. One thing I mentioned back here is once you start going sideways 7, 8, 9, 10 days, you can get trapped in a sideways range for much longer than you think, and you just have to be patient for that day where you're about to see expansion. And once you get it, you get the big whoosh, and then further continuation could be seen after that. So right now we're seeing compression. This compression could build out a little longer before we see that continuation. Same thing for Ether futures right here. This one's up 4%. Same very narrow range. You can quantify this range on a 7-day basis as well, and you get this 41% of ADR bar right there. 769 points of potential range could be seen. 700. Right now we're at 1100. I mean, this thing could point us all the way down to 400 or 500 points on this range here. So again, the one thing we were noting from before is 902 half likely needs to be tested, and 717s likely need to be tested, which means we have to go through those levels. So we could theoretically drop all the way into the 400 to 500 range, which again, if 400 to 500 is seen, that might be hard to pass up on a longer term basis to get this thing back up toward 2000 or beyond. Alright, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Remember, Fed Chair Powell testifies on day 2 here at 9 a.m. Central, and then we also have the crude oil inventories here later today at 10 a.m. Central Time. Alright, that's it for now. We'll be back at it here in the trading room. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the room.